Well, good afternoon. Merry Christmas and season's greetings, although I'm uncomfortable talking about it as Merry Christmas because it's not a bah humbug kind of thing. It's more the excesses and then failing to recognize what's at the heart of what I think this season is all about, which is it's giving, but not giving exactly the way our commerce would demand. I mean, we've been talking about Christmas since the beginning of October. When I was a kid, you waited until the Macy's Day Parade. Now, I am wearing the appropriate hat for Christmas Day. And in my own history, when I was in grammar school, the nun, who liked me very much, and I was very respectful for her, she wanted me to be Santa Claus, and I was such a chubby kid. You hear that? Guns on, there it is, Christmas Day. This guy is shooting guns, huh? And on his lawn, he has crosses and things like that. He has a manger. He has all the accoutrements, and I don't remember Jesus having a holster in the form of a cross or anyone since celebrating it seriously who thought that that was what Christmas was all about. But exemplar gratia, here we have in Northern Virginia, not that far from Lovettsville, some guy shooting guns on Christmas Day. Okay, so here I was as a kid. I was a chubby kid, and the teacher wanted me to play Santa, and I refused. And she asked me with the whole class there, and I didn't say it's because you chose me because I'm chubby. But by the time I'd gotten to college, there was a need for a Santa Claus, and I had shed my fat cells or whatever, and I was somewhat of an athlete, and I volunteered to play Santa Claus for these poor children that came to Fordham, and we gave them small presents and so forth like that. But the look on their face was worth all the time and effort that one would spend. And the questions were asked by children under 12 or whatever who were logical and their minds worked about how does Santa do all the houses on Christmas Day and things like that. And so the joy of these children would have been as great if, we just did kind acts with them and did more good acts ourselves. So let's consider the circumference of the daily news today. In the category of can't get a break, and it's an unfailing, inhumane system of injustice that caused the effect. There's a man who spent 48 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And now in recent days, we find out he has stage 4 cancer. And he may only have 5 years to live. And stage 4 is not a death penalty, but it's a pretty scary time, even with modern medicine. And that's in Oklahoma. So the stamp of what's wrong with government and people is that this man suffered and lost a life, basically, spending 48 years in custody. And now he's out, and now he faces a deathly illness. I've often used the example of those who have spent time in prison, though innocent, as proof of the failure of the system, because you can't say there's some, quote, trick, invoking the Fifth Amendment or the Fourth Amendment or any of these things that people would brush aside, ignoring the policy underlying those. But innocence is something we all understand. You didn't do the crime, and there are ways to prove you didn't do the crime, and it was misconduct, usually, or negligence that caused a person who was innocent to go to prison, and often based on the color of his or her skin, the origin, where they come from, things like that. Now, there are lengths that people will go to promulgate Christmas, and there's in fact a story in the Post today, and they're encouraging people to consider whether their children, 12 years old and older, should be the only ones to read the story. What does that tell us? The public newspapers are in on the deal to mislead our children by not letting them know the facts, making as the allies in this effort the parents who won't let their children read the papers. Now, I don't remember how I figured it out, but it just seemed pretty obvious to me from a young age. And I just kept my mouth shut. And so, in a way, I was fostering something I knew was a lie that my parents were telling me was the truth, and it wasn't. I don't get that. So what's an example of what's good about it? Well, I read a story about men eating mushroom soup and fish and bread in Donetsk, Ukraine, on the border of that war. Now that's wonderful. People sharing together this moment as they relax when they are about to fight for peace and for their homeland. And now, what's the flip side of that? We can't get a Congress to support them with the funds they need. That's not a gift. That's a policy decision. That's what humane people do. Do they support people at war? Well, through our history, we have found we can't talk to some people, and so we do fight. We do choose a worthy war, as worthy as war can ever be. But not all acts have to enter into that arena. The study of people doing good things at other times are things like gifts of diapers. Now, this event happened in April, but it is what we can be doing now. It is about growing close to friends and to family. These things have been disrupted. These things have been put at risk. These things have been put at risk by Trump and his ugly minions in the way and crimes that they commit. How you doing? And so this is our challenge, to have relationships, because that's at the center of everything about us, with people we care and love about, and to act consistent with that feeling, to help others. If it's not diapers, it's a kind word to someone. The other day I was in a store with Holly, and a woman was sitting in a chair and her cane fell down, and I saw her turn to try to get it, which was going to be a clumsy event for her. I picked it up and gave it to her, and she thanked me. Now, none of us would probably think twice about doing that. But that's the difference between Republicans in their current state of mind, in their current leadership. It's not tough love. It's not love at all. It's to tolerate the weak and the hungry and the people who are homeless. That's where our Republican Party is today. And, you know, there was a column by E.J. Dionne, whom I've always thought very highly of. And there are people who are forced to be apologists for the errors in society. Now, I don't normally think of Dionne that way. He's very articulate. He writes beautifully. And today he was talking about how we can have the democratization of God. No, we can't. We can't have that because it doesn't exist. There is no one thought of God. There is no one religion. And there are those, including myself, who are very comfortable with the fact that Einstein's God is the closest anyone can ever come, which is an impersonal God who doesn't muck around in our private affairs. Otherwise, does he create the flood that then we pray for him to take care of afterwards? No. And these kinds of events are proof that there isn't any manifestation of this divine power. But it goes beyond that. We see that whatever notion you have of God, of a divine being, is on, well, life support. That is, the beating of the heart doesn't exist. and perhaps 30% of our population. And I'm talking about the evangelicals. The evangelicals and Trump have broken the partnership among humanity to care to help each other even when we disagree about other things. Do we build a bridge here? Do we honor this post office? These kind of innocent things have been supplanted by what do we do in this war in the Middle East? What do we do in Ukraine? What is our responsibility? What is our gift during this period of time? Well, you notice our Congress couldn't figure out how to do that. So they fail. They fail the spirit of the season. And that is one of our problems. And what is it that we should be doing? What is it about this period? We have to renew our relationship with each other in the following way. A, the golden rule is a good rule without regard to religion. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And if you can't have love, just have a modicum of concern and care for them. But this is just an attitude. And when other churches are not condemning the evangelicals for their discrimination and hate, or the churches that would cut off women, or be upset about how people find love in others of the same sex, and all the many things that make up a planet of diversity, and when religion can't treat people as equal, not just under the law, equal, equivalent to each of us. If you can't do that, we're all on a path, a glide path that doesn't glide very easily. There are challenges in life, and we do what we can. We try to find the support among our friends and our family and in ourselves for people that we care about. That's what it's about, but not for Republicans, not for evangelicals. I have heard preaching from these institutions, supposedly of religion, linking back to our origins, supposedly linking back to caring about society, and they fall flat on their face. So we care about each other. We get close. We perform acts that are humane acts for other people. Could be diapers, could be a word, could be picking up a cane. It could be any one of these things. These things don't exist in our society today as an accepted rule. We have lots of opinions on what not to do. And finally, we should vote like our very existence depends upon it, because it does. You ask a doctor, how important as we age is a relationship? Critical. How important is an attitude? Critical. And these things have been punctured and compromised and been omitted from the formula, the ethos that is who we are. So we have to vote like mad, and we have to speak against the evangelicals. We have to speak against these people who would compromise the spirit of this season, which is the spirit that we need year-round. And because of the evil inherent in Trump and everything he stands for, whether it be the Constitution, law, personal behavior, or what his vision is of America, which from his first inauguration was a miserable look at America. We don't need people like that running us down. And we should be saying it, and our media should be saying it. It's incredible to me how many people will rationalize the terrible things these people want to do. So, on this day of love and giving, I speak to you from my Cathedral of Trees, and with any luck, I'll be out again tomorrow. Bye-bye.